Hi everyone, it's Lara here from LK Yoga. Today we're going to work our way through a back bending binding sequence. Don't feel put off by this, there's going to be loads of options. There will also be poses that you've already encountered in our classes that are formally back bends. So obviously I'll just be pointing those out today just so you're a bit more aware of the movements and shapes that you're creating in your yoga practice. So today, the maximum really you need as a prop is perhaps a block or equivalent if you can. No worries if you don't have it, the practice should work without it. So we're going to start class in a seated position. So just finding a comfortable seat, whatever works for you. Perhaps you want to sit on a block or a folded up blanket or something just to raise the hips slightly if you feel a little bit tight across the front of the hips and struggle to get the knees down. Alternatively, you can kneel or whatever works for you. We're just going to take a moment with the palms facing up. We're going to grow nice and tall through the spine, roll the shoulders up, back and down. So I really want you to feel the length through the back of the neck coming all the way through the crown of the head. I'm going to draw the chin towards the chest ever so slightly here. And just taking a moment to come into your breath. So if you can, inhaling and exhaling nice and deep. So as you inhale, feel the rib cage move and open to expand and accommodate the lungs as they fill with air. And as you exhale, just feeling a wave of relaxation come through the body, just letting go of anything that might be on your mind. Just taking the next 45 minutes just to come back to your mat and to your movement, trying to still and calm the mind. And from here, we're going to take the hands to face down and just start to do some gentle shoulder rolls. So you can exaggerate this motion as much as you want. As we're going to be doing some binds today, we want to make sure the shoulders are nice and warm before we get into any of our slightly deeper poses, so really important to warm them up today. I'm going to reverse the direction as well. You can get a bit of movement going through the upper back and the chest too, and that's great. Just a few more rounds here. Well, I'm going to come back to a neutral position and come into seated cat-cow today. I'm going to take my hands to the knees and then I'm going to start to round through the back. So I'm just going to press the hands gently into the knees to sort of support me here. I can draw the chin in towards the chest as well. And then I'm going to come through, squeezing the shoulders behind the back and just trying to come into a sort of cow equivalent in a seated pose. So just taking a few rounds here, just moving gently. It's an alternative way to start to warm up the spine. Can be a nice change sometimes. So just another round or so here, moving at your own time with the breath. And then coming back towards center from here, just taking some gentle seated twists. Left hand comes to the outside of the right knee, right hand comes behind. On the inhale, growing nice and tall. On the exhale, twisting, gazing over the right shoulder. And then coming back towards center, the right hand comes to the outside of the left knee, left hand comes behind. Inhaling, growing tall, exhaling, twisting, gazing over the left shoulder. And then coming slowly back to center here. We come to tabletop position. So taking the hands underneath the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips. On the inhale, rounding up through the back, coming back to our cat-cow sequence. And on the exhale, rippling through, gazing towards the top of the mat. So this time we've got an option to add in a little arm stretch. As we come into our cat, we're going to pick up the right hand, if you'd like, and draw it over to the left-hand side of the body. So you can get an extra good stretch all the way down the right side. And then coming back to center, and over to the other side. So left hand over to the right, stretching out through the left-hand side of the body here. And then back to center. And just a few more rounds of cat-cow. If you want to keep including the stretch down the arm and the side, please feel free to do so. And then coming back to a neutral position in the spine. So we're just drawing the belly button in very slightly here. On the inhale, we're going to lift the left arm nice and high, coming to our thread the needle. Left shoulder comes underneath us. As we've got a binding class today, I've got an extra option for you here. So you can tuck the toes as usual on the right foot. And maybe extend the right arm overhead. If your shoulders feel quite warm or you're regularly practicing binds, then you can take an early bind here, taking the right hand, the top arm, and just taking it to the inside of the left hip. If that feels a bit much, you can also just rest the hand on the back and just work on sort of drawing the right shoulder open. So I'm trying to draw the elbow up towards the sky here, maybe even over towards the left. A really good way to start to open up through the inside of the shoulder. And then taking the right hand back down, bring the right knee down. Left arm comes up towards the ceiling and then placing it back on the mat. Coming over to the other side, lifting the right arm nice and high, and then threading the arm through underneath you, drawing the right shoulder down to the mat. Option to tuck the toes on the left foot and draw the left arm up overhead like we did on the other side. And remember, we have got this bind option today as well. Just taking the left arm behind the back, maybe interlacing it through to the inside of the front hip if that is comfortable. It's quite deep, so maybe just resting the hand on the lower back as well. You want to try and make this left shoulder feel nice and open, so we're not sort of sagging and hunched here and nice and open. Drawing the left knee down and taking the left arm back up to the ceiling, placing it back on the mat. Inhaling, lifting the right arm up, and then gently setting it back on the mat. So final part of our little floor warm-up sequence today, come into child's pose and then take 5 child's pose push-ups, so you can keep the knee down here. So you can come into a plank position, either lifted on the toes or perhaps with the knees down, but a lower to a 90-degree bend in the arms, and then press back up and come straight back to child's pose. So just going to do this one more time slowly. So our second round, remember you can keep the knees down, pressing back up, and coming back into our child's pose. This time we're going to add another 3, but we're going to make the movement a little bit more fluid. So as we come forward, we're going to come down more or less straight away, press back up and come back. Great work. So just 2 more like this in your own time. No rush. Trying to keep the core engaged through the plank and the press up. And then just one more. So we want to make sure we feel nice and strong through the body, getting ourselves warm. From here, finding our way to downward facing dog. So spreading the fingers, lifting the feet up behind you, just pedaling out through the feet. Just doing any sort of freestyle that helps you to feel a little bit warmer through the backs of the legs. Try to keep the ears roughly in line with the biceps, a slight bend in the elbows here, just to sort of support our joints, help build the strength around them rather than locking out through them. I'm going to walk the feet in towards the hands, coming to the top of the mat for our ragdoll. So for a ragdoll, you want the knees to be super bent whilst trying to lift the hips high. We're going to gently rock left and right here. Just letting the weight of the upper body drag you down towards the mat. Still checking in on the breath. Making sure you're still trying to breathe deeply, even in these folded positions. Then taking the hands down towards the toes. On the inhale, rolling up through the spine, stacking the shoulders. We're going to circle the arms up overhead, hands face in. From here, taking the left arm down the side of the body, drawing the right arm over and across. I'm just going to twist so you can see. You can then maybe take the left hand around the edge of the right arm and draw yourself a bit deeper if that feels good. And then coming back towards centre and over to the other side, so the right arm comes down, left arm over, and then just taking the hand around the edge of the wrist and drawing yourself a little bit deeper if that feels good. Whilst you're doing this, try and keep the left shoulder engaged so you don't want that to lift too high. Coming back to centre and then folding forward. On the inhale, taking a halfway lift, taking the hands to gently rest on the legs in front of you, keeping the back straight. Exhaling, folding back down. On the inhale, rolling up through the spine, stacking the shoulders, circling the arms wide, hands face in, this time coming to a brief chair. So we're going to draw the hips back, engage through the core, and try and keep the chest lifted, facing forward. Great work, everyone. Hands come to prayer, exhaling, folding. On the inhale, finding a halfway lift. From here, stepping the left foot back, coming to our modified Crescent Lunge. I'm going to take the arms up overhead and sink into the bend of the front leg. If you're feeling nice and active, then straight away you can come to a Crescent Lunge pose. If you're feeling a little bit tight in the hips, perhaps you've been sat at a desk all day, then I advise you to stay here for now. We've got lots of strength work in the class, so you won't be missing out. I'm going to take the hands behind the back, interlace the fingers. So if you want, you can tuck the toes on the back foot and just come into a high variation of the pose. Trying to sink into the hips as best you can with whatever option you choose. And then taking the hands overhead again, drawing them into prayer and finding a twist. So the left elbow comes to the outside of the right knee. So trying to find length in the spine today, opening across the chest, gazing over the right shoulder if you can. And then coming back towards center, taking the arms overhead. Hands frame the front foot, stepping back to a plank, briefly holding here, just feeling the strength in your body. And then drawing the knees down, chest comes all the way to the floor. Hands come in line with the shoulders, inhaling, drawing the shoulders back and lifting the chest through. And then exhaling, lowering down, taking one cheek to the mat, giving the hips a wiggle. On the next inhale, lifting the chest again. And then taking the opposite into the mat, giving the hips a wiggle. Then in final time, on the inhale, lifting the chest. And then exhaling, lowering down. From here, finding your way back to downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, you're going to walk the feet in towards the hands, coming to another little forward fold at the top of the mat. Just holding briefly, take the hands so the two of these fingers come to the big toes, drawing the elbows out to the side, or maybe just holding onto the back of the shins. Remember, there's always an option to hold onto your block as well. On the inhale, we're going to grow tall through the spine. We're going to circle the arms wide, hands face in, coming back to our chair. So I'm going to sink the bum back, keep the chest lifted here. Got an option to try coming to the tiptoes, maybe sinking the bum further, holding here, and then taking the heels back down, try and keep the bum just as low. Hands come into prayer, exhaling, folding forward. On the inhale, finding a halfway lift, and on the exhale, stepping the right foot back this time. So coming to our modified crescent lunge on the other side, taking the arms up overhead, sinking into the hips as best you can. You're going to take the hands behind the back, like on the other side. Interlace if you can, one finger over, just to give a little bit of variation to the stretch. Lift the chest high and draw the shoulders gently back. Remember, there's the option to tuck the toes on the back foot and lift a little higher if you want to work into the legs. Just breathing deeply, taking the hands back overhead, drawing them into the prayer position and twisting towards the left. So trying to make our spine feel nice and long, opening through the chest. So my left shoulder is staying upright, I'm not collapsing here. Gazing over the left shoulder. Trying to let the hips still sink down towards the mat. And taking the arms back overhead. Hands frame the front foot, and we're going to step back to plank, this time going all the way down. So I'm going to draw the knees down, chest comes all the way to the floor. And we're coming to our shoulder openers nice and early to prep us for our bind class. So what we're going to do to start with is just gaze towards the right arm, the left ear comes down. Then we're going to take the right leg up and over, coming into our little shoulder stretch. So you can have a little play with the left arm position, maybe try walking a bit higher, see how that changes the intensity of the stretch for you. Find a position that works best for you. You can also take the right hand and maybe gently press into the mat, just get a little bit deeper into the shoulder if that feels okay. If the stretch already feels intense, then don't worry, just stick with the most sort of simple variation of the pose, no need to put extra pressure on. And then coming back to center, right arm comes to 90, right ear comes down, and then draw the left leg up and over here. So coming into the stretch on the other side, remember you have got the option just to gently press into the left hand if you'd like it. And then coming back towards center. And from here we're going to take one brief round of cobra, inhaling, gently lifting the chest. And then exhaling, lowering down from here, coming back to child's pose. Now guess what we're going to do in child's pose? We're going to do 5 more child's pose push-ups. Remember you can keep the knees down. And do it a little bit faster this time, so I'm not going to slow the first 2 down. Still in control though. So we're going to take the hands out in front of us. We're going to come into our plank, into our press up, push back up, find our way back to child's pose. One more time for number 2. That was a little bit cheeky of me. 3 more to go, not 1 more. So we're coming into our 3rd round, gently pressing down. And then coming back to child's pose. Trying to make sure you do feel the plank position before you lower, pressing back up before you come back. 2 more to go, pressing into the hands, halfway down, back up. And final time, pressing down, back up and into child's pose. From here, coming to downward facing dog. Just holding downward facing dog very briefly here. So try and keep a slight bend in the elbows, lift the hips nice and high. Keeping a slight bend in the knees too, so we're really focusing on the length in the back. On the inhale, lifting the left leg high. Stepping it through to the top of the mat, coming into warrior one. So the right foot turns to 45 degrees. You can use the placement line on your mat to help you get the rough sort of positioning of your foot. Remember, these placement lines are just guiding lines. You can move and place yourself on the mat as you feel most comfortable. We're going to twist to get the hips to face forward. We're going to try and sink into the bend of the front leg. Then from here, taking the hands behind the back, holding on to opposite elbows. We're going to try and open across the front of the chest and draw the shoulders back here. Great work. Sinking into the hips as best you can. If you want, you can take the hands to reverse prayer behind the back. Although generally I keep the hands on the elbows, as I find that I sort of have to arch through my back to do that. And it doesn't work for me and my shoulders, but it's completely up to you. From here, we're going to find our way into a eagle pose. So we're going to take the arms up overhead. We're going to draw the right knee into the chest as we step forward, and then thread it over the top of the left leg. Remember, you can just take the feet together standing at the top of the mat if you prefer. We're going to take the left arm underneath the right arm on top. We're going to interlace the hands and lift the elbows to be in line with our gaze. We're then going to try and gently press the palms away and sink into our hips as best we can. Don't worry if you're wobbling a lot, it's really good. Your body's just learning the pose and strengthening through the muscles. So this is a bind position here too. I'm going to, with control, release the arms. Step back to warrior one. Then from here, hands come to frame the foot. Then step back to a plank, this time taking a vinyasa of your choice. So always option to lower the knees down, chest to the floor. Hands in line with the shoulders, inhaling, lifting to cobra. So this is a small back bend. Exhaling, lowering down, tucking the toes, and finding your way back to downward facing dog. So in downward facing dog, and come straight to warrior one again. Lift the right leg nice and high, draw it into the chest and step through to the top of the mat. The left foot comes to 45 degrees behind us. We'll take the arms overhead and try and twist the hips to face forward. Taking the hands behind the back, maybe taking the other elbow on top this time, so whatever feels a bit weird, unusual. Switching over sides. Trying to sink into the bend of the front leg, get the hips to face forward as best you can. Remembering to breathe, keeping the toes on the front foot relaxed. Then taking the hands overhead, coming into eagle on the other side. So I'm going to draw the left knee into the chest as we step forward. Trying not to touch the ground if you can. My balance isn't very good today, apparently. I'm going to take the left leg over the top of the right. It doesn't matter if you fall over, I'm always a prime example of that. It's just always good to try. Right arm comes into the left. Going to our eagle bind on the other side. Trying to keep the hips facing forward. I always find that I slightly twist in this pose, so I'm actively trying to fight that twist and keep the hips facing forward. I'm going to lift the elbows in line with my gaze and press the hands forward as well. Drawing the belly towards the spine. And then taking the hands back overhead, stepping back to warrior one. Just briefly holding here. Then taking the hands to frame the front foot. This time we're going to lower our way down to the mat. So we're going to take the knees down, chest comes to the floor. So when we come into locust, we're going to take the arms to 90 degrees beside us. And then on the inhale, we're going to lift the upper body, option to lift the legs as well. So I'm going to squeeze the shoulder blades together, lift the chest off the mat. I'm going to turn my heels out slightly internally, rotating my legs. Trying to lift as high as I can. Trying to stay breathing. And then gently lowering down. Rocking the hips left and right. From here, we're going to have a go at a half bow. So we're going to work towards bow as one of our back bends today. So I'm going to start off with my left side. So I'm going to take my hand in line with my shoulder here. And I'm going to take the left hand to catch hold of the outside of the foot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick the foot into the hand. And I'm going to try and draw the shoulder open at the same time. So I'm going to lift and kick. I don't have to come very high. You just want to listen to your body. You don't want to force here. But I'm kicking the foot into the hand, and I'm trying to actively draw the chest off the mat as well. I'm trying to keep the neck long and relaxed. And then gently letting go. Coming over to the other side, so the right hand comes to the outside of the right foot. The left hand's just supporting me at the side here. I'm going to kick the foot into the hand and lift up gently off the mat. It's really good to try and practice this pose sometimes as the half variation, as it just helps you kind of get an idea of which side might be a little tighter than the other. And then gently lowering back down. From here, finding your way back to child's pose. Just taking a breath here. Remember, you can always pause the class and stay here as long as you need to. And then you're ready, coming back to downward facing dog. Tucking the feet underneath you. On the inhale, we're going to lift the left leg high. Step through to the top of the mat, coming to a wide angle forward fold. So I'm going to twist around, so you don't have to stare at my bum. I'm going to take the hands to the hips and fold forward. Now from here, I'm going to take the hands down to the centre of the mat. If that feels a little bit uncomfortable for you, remember you can always take the block, hands to the block. That's a great option then as well. Taking the hands to the floor now. I'm going to spread the weight nice and evenly through the feet. You want to feel a gentle stretch on the inside of the legs, but nothing too deep for now. I'm going to take a block just as an example. The right hand goes to the centre of the block or onto the mat. Left arm comes up towards the ceiling, coming into a little twist. Then option here to take the hand behind the back, coming to a half bind sort of position. So you can work the fingers all the way through to the inside of the hip if you want, or just keep the hand resting on the back. I generally feel there's enough in this pose. Trying to draw the left shoulder above the right. And then coming back to centre, switching over sides. So the right arm comes up nice and high. And then taking the hand to the inside of the hip, drawing the shoulder open. This is an option. You can always keep the hand facing up towards the ceiling as well, that's fine. We're releasing the arm, coming back to centre. From here we're going to come into warrior two. So we're going to draw the belly button into centre to stand up strong. I'm going to twist the left foot so it's on the centre line of the mat. The right foot's going to cross, so the inner arch of the back foot aligns with the heel of the front foot. I'm going to take the arms nice and strong, reaching out in front and behind us. Gazing over the front hand, trying to keep the shoulders roughly above the hips. Turning the front palm, reversing the warrior, left arm comes up overhead. And then exhaling, coming forward to extended side angle. Really reaching out through the tips of the right hand and pressing through the outside edge of the back foot. From here, option to find some bind variations. So to start with, we're just going to do a half bind, taking the right arm behind the back and even resting the hand in the centre of the back or drawing the fingers through to the inside of the front hip. I'm just going to twist around so you can see me here. So we've got this option here. We will have an option to come into a deeper bind in our next round. If you want to come here straight away, you feel warm, you know what I'm talking about, feel free to do so. If not, don't worry, we'll come and have another go next time. Taking the right arm back overhead. From here, coming briefly into warrior two. Hands freeing the front foot, taking a vinyasa of your choice. So remember, always option to lower to 90 degrees, chaturanga, roll through to upward facing dog and ignore the back bend. And then exhale back to downward facing dog. Nice deep breath in downward facing dog. And then on the inhale, lifting the right leg high. And stepping the right foot through to the top of the mat. Twisting again to the side, finding a wide angle forward fold. So this time, just very briefly, we're going to walk the feet a bit wider. We're going to press the hips back. Just going to be here for a moment or so. And then I've got two options for you now, either to come into goddess squat or to come all the way into Malasana. I'm going to slowly walk the feet in. If you're coming to goddess squat, you still want the feet to be quite wide. You can kind of come to the very tip of the guidance lines. That should be about the right distance, but obviously I'm really a small female. If you're a slightly taller male, you might want to be even wider. So just listen to your body. You want the feet turning out very slightly. I'm going to take the arms up overhead and sink down into the hips, trying to draw the torso nice and straight. So this is one option. If you want to come deeper, coming to Malasana. So here we're going to take the feet into an even narrow stance, take the arms overhead, draw the hands into prayer, and then come all the way down. So you can take the arms here to rest on the inside of the knees. You're going to try and straighten up through the back. I'm going to come into a twist variation. So I'm going to take the left arm down, trying to keep the heel down. I'm a little tight in my hips today, so I find that a little bit difficult, but it's still worth sometimes staying here. And then also an option to come into a half bind, just taking the left arm behind the back and interlacing it through to the inside of the front hip. You can take the right hand behind the knee as well to catch hold of the back hand if that feels good for you. And if you are in the goddess pose, just taking the right hand to rest on the knee, left arm can either stay up to the sky or again just find a gentle half bind. Coming back to centre and then switching over sides. The left hand comes down to the knee or all the way to the floor if you're in Malasana. Right arm comes up to the ceiling. And then taking the hand behind the back, opening through the shoulder here. So just to show you, in Vinyasa, left hand comes down, right arm comes up. Wherever you are, you want to lift the torso nice and high as best you can. Some days you will feel tighter than others. Just doing your best to try and find the lift in the chest. And taking the right arm back to the ceiling from here, finding your way back to a wide angle forward fold, and then coming to warrior two. So I'm going to twist the front foot to face forward. I'm going to spiral the arms open, sinking into the bend of the legs just for a moment. Turning the front palm, reversing the warrior, right arm comes up overhead. And then exhaling forward to extended side angle. Reaching out through the tips of the front fingers, pressing through the outside edge of the back foot here. Remember, we have the option to half bind. So the left arm can come behind the back and just gently rest in the center of the back, or maybe draw the fingers through to the inside of the right hip here, trying to keep the left shoulder nice and open. The chest still feels quite lifted. Try to sink into the bend of the leg too. Taking the left arm briefly back overhead, coming to warrior two one more time. Hands frame the front foot, taking a vinyasa of your choice. So remember, there's always an option to just draw the knees down, chest to the floor. Hands in line with the shoulders, inhaling, gently lifting to cobra. And then exhaling, lowering down. Finding your way briefly back to child's pose. And then coming back to downward facing dog. So just one more series of flowing to go. And then we're going to come down to our mats and into some deeper back bends. So to come back to the warrior two flow. This time we've got the option to add in the full bind. So we're going to lift the left leg up towards the ceiling, option to bend and open, taking the knee up to the sky and the left foot down to the bum. From here the left foot comes to the top of the mat. I'm going to open up into warrior two. I'm going to stay facing away so you can see my arms in the binding position. Turning the front palm, reversing the warrior, left arm comes up overhead. And then exhaling, coming all the way through to extended side angle, reaching out through the tips of the top hand. So to find the half bind, the right arm comes behind the back. You can either rest here, or through to the inside of the front hip. To come to the full bind, we're going to draw the left shoulder down. We're going to take the left hand through and try and keep the right arm nice and lifted. We're going to hold onto our hands gently behind the back. So we're going to keep the chest feeling open, the right shoulder drawing back. Just holding for a moment and any variation that works for you. And then gently releasing the bind, taking the right arm back overhead. Bring back to warrior two. And then hands frame the front foot. Stepping back to a plank and taking a vinyasa of your choice. So it's option to lower to 90. Roll through to upward facing dog. And exhale back to downward facing dog. Great work. Final side to go. On the inhale, lifting the right leg high, option to bend and open, knee up towards the sky. Stepping the right foot through to the top of the mat, coming to warrior two on the other side. Try to sink into the legs as best you can, gazing out over the front hand here. Turning the front palm, reversing the warrior, right arm comes up overhead. Then exhaling, coming forward to extended side angle. This time I'm going to stay facing you so you can see the pose from another angle. I'm going to take the left arm behind the back, either find a half bind or coming into the full bind. Right shoulder down towards the knee, right hand comes through to catch hold of the back hand, trying to keep the chest nice and open here. You can gaze up towards the ceiling or down towards the front foot if that feels more comfortable. Remember, both sides might not be equal here and that's fine. Just work with what feels good for you today in either pose. Gently releasing the bind, taking the left arm back overhead and coming into warrior two one more time. Hands frame the front foot. And this time, we're going to lower all the way down to the mat. Just taking a moment to breathe here on the mat. We're actually going to come into Sphinx briefly. So we're going to take the elbows underneath the shoulders and just draw the chest forward. So to take a moment to come back to your breath, try and lengthen the breath. If you'd rather stay here for a moment, then that's fine. As an alternative option, we're going to have a go at the full bow pose. If you want to try the half bow pose variations again as well, that's also fine. So just make the class your own here today. I'm going to draw the chest down now. I'm going to try the full bow. So I'm going to take the left hand to the outside of the left foot. If I was coming to half bow, I'd stay here. If you want to try the full bow, the right hand comes to the outside of the right foot. On the inhale, I'm going to lift the chest off the floor and I'm going to try and lift the legs too. So inhaling and lifting up as high as you can. Really trying to lift the chest, lift the feet behind you as well. Try and keep the knees drawing together towards each other so the legs aren't coming too wide here. And then exhaling, gently releasing. Great work. From here, I'm going to come back to a kneeling position. So we've got all the hard work done now. I have the radiator on today, so I'm certainly feeling nice and warm. So the next pose we're going to have a go at is camel, which is something we have done a few times before. I'm going to give you an extra option today because we're nice and open through the shoulders and we've had a couple of back bends sort of building us up to this pose. So just a sort of disclaimer here too, if you feel like through the binds like that's been enough, and there's no need to come deeper for the sake of it, just listen to the body. So remember when you're kneeling, you can always take a block between the legs and just sit on the block, just to take some of the extra weight out of the feet, that's fine as well. From here we're going to take the hands to the lower back and stand up on our knees nice and tall. I'm going to start to try and draw the elbows together behind the back, and then I'm going to gently press my hips forward and lift the chest up towards the ceiling. I want to keep the neck nice and relaxed. You don't need to throw it back though, you just need to listen to how you feel. I generally just try and keep my neck relaxed, but I gaze up towards the ceiling. There's still a little bit of tension in the neck, and it doesn't feel comfortable for me to throw it back, but it's really up to you and how you feel, how tight you are across the shoulders here. To come back to center and draw the belly button in, straighten up and then come back to kneeling. Taking a little twist, right hand comes to the outside of the left knee, left hand comes behind. On the inhale, growing tall, and on the exhale, twisting, gazing over the left shoulder. Breathing deeply, trying to relax. And then coming over to the other side, left hand to the outside of the right knee, right hand behind. Inhaling, growing tall, and exhaling, twisting, gazing over the right shoulder. And then slowly coming back to center. One more round of camel on the menu today. So you can stay with this variation of the pose if that feels good enough, if it feels right for you. You can also just take the hands behind the back and interlace the fingers, press the hips forward and squeeze the shoulders behind the back. It's another variation. If you want to come a bit deeper, we're going to start with the hands on the lower back, drawing the elbows behind us, pressing the hips forward, and then maybe taking the hands towards the heels. And lift the hips nice and high and lift the chest up towards the ceiling. This is another variation. You can also take the feet flat before you come into this pose if that's to get you a little bit deeper, as the heels will be that little bit lower down, so that's another option too. And from here, I'm going to draw the belly in strong, growing nice and tall. I'm going to come into a brief child's pose. We'll take the hands out in front of us, and this time come to our little side stretches. So we're going to walk the hands over towards the left, stretching out on the right hand side of the body here. Breathing deep, exhaling, just releasing, letting go. And then over towards the right, left hand comes over, stretching down the left hand side of the body. And then coming back to center, walking the hands in. From here, we're going to lie on the back. So you've now got an option to take either bridge or wheel. I will only demonstrate bridge just because I don't really feel comfortable queuing for wheel when I'm not in a class full of people and I can sort of be there to assist and help. If wheel is regularly part of your practice though, you have had a good warm up towards it, so feel free to come in and out of wheel in your own time if it feels good for you and you are confident in your own practice. If you are even slightly unsure about it or maybe not feeling 100%, we're going to stick with our bridge pose today. We're going to do our one-legged bridge variations again to help strengthen up the rear side of the body. So I'm going to take the hands down to the mat. I'm going to make sure the heels are about hand and wrist distance away from the bum. Shoulders are nice and broad to start. I'm going to press into the heels, so you lift the hips up off the mat. Roll up through the spine, tucking the shoulders underneath you, interlacing the hands. Pressing the hips high here. And if you keep the feet nice and relaxed, lift the chest, breathing deeply. If this feels enough, stay here. If you want to have a go at the one-legged bridge, walk the left foot towards center. Draw the right knee into the chest and take the leg up towards the sky. Try and keep the hips lifted and level. And then drawing the knee into the chest, gently setting down, coming over to the other side. So this time, right foot comes to center. Left knee comes into the chest, keeping the hips high, lifting the left leg up overhead. And then drawing the knee back in, both feet come down. Final little bit, we're going to try and lift onto the toes. And then heels come down, release the shoulders all the way back down to the mat. Well done. So we're just going to rock the knees gently left and right for a moment here. And then coming back to center, drawing the knees in again. And then from here, coming to happy baby just briefly, because it's one of the best poses ever. And take the hands to the inside of the knees, catch hold of the outside of the feet, drawing the heels up towards the sky, and just gently rocking left and right if that feels good for you here. Trying to draw the shoulders down towards the mat. Let everything relax. Perhaps you felt a bit silly doing this pose at the start of this series of classes. Hopefully now you just don't care. I certainly don't, so you shouldn't either. And then gently rocking your way up to seated. I'm just going to take a couple of twists and then come into our final class of pose today. Pose of class, there we go. And take the right leg out in front of you. Left leg comes up and over. So the outside edge of the left foot is just on the outside of the right leg here. I'm going to take the right arm round around the knee. Right arm, oh, I should give up, shouldn't I? Right arm around the knee. Left hand comes behind. So I'm going to try and really squeeze the knee in towards the chest. I'm going to get a stretch across the hip here. I'm going to twist and gaze over the left shoulder as well. Just breathing deeply on the inhale, trying to grow tall, and on the exhale, twisting, gazing over the left shoulder. And then slowly coming back towards centre, I'm going to take the left leg out in front of me. I'm going to draw the right leg in this time. I'm going to draw the elbow around. I'm going to grow tall and gaze over the right shoulder. So I'm not really cueing the option to sort of come into the other variation where the elbow comes the outside of the knee today. So I want you to focus on drawing the knee in and trying to feel the stretch around the hip. Great work. Going back towards centre. I lied, we have 3 more poses left, so I hope that's okay. Well, one pose on either side and then another pose. So we're going to come back to downward facing dog to prep ourselves for pigeon now. If pigeon isn't something that you want to practice, you can always come to recline pigeon. You lie on the back, the left foot comes to the back of the right knee, and the hands come through to catch hold with the back of the hamstring, just drawing it in if that feels comfortable for you. If you would like to come into pigeon, rather than recline pigeon, we're going to take the hands nice and broad on the mat. We're going to lift up into downward facing dog. Just feel how good the downward facing dog feels for a moment. And then lift the left leg high. And then we're going to draw the shin as close to parallel with the mat as we can. And gently draw the knee down, and then as you need to, just draw the left foot in slightly. Let the right leg come back behind you. Lift the chest and then come down onto the mat. Sinking into the hips. If you feel that the left hip is quite lifted, you can either take a blanket or a block and just rest it under there. Or you can also take the block below the arms. If you don't want to come quite as deep, you can stay on the hands. There's so many ways you can do this pose. So just finding a variation that works for you. We're going to be here for the best part of a minute now. So really trying to soak up the benefit of our class. It should be hopefully nice and warm. I certainly am with the radiator on next to me. Just to get a little bit deeper into the muscles now. When you're ready, we're going to slowly come back up to the hands. We're going to draw ourselves back into downward facing dog if we're in pigeon. If you're in recline pigeon, just switch sides while staying on the mat. So for those of you coming to downward facing dog, maybe just give the left leg a bit of a wiggle. This is our final downward facing dog of class, so just really enjoy it. On the inhale, we're going to lift the right leg high. And we're going to draw the right shin as close to parallel to the top of the mat as we can. Take the right foot down and then draw the left leg behind you away to help you settle into the hips here. Remember, you can stay on the hands, you can use a block, or you can come all the way down just to rest here. You can take the forehead to the mat too if that feels good. And even if you can come a little bit deeper, sometimes you don't have to. Don't feel like you always need to find the sort of extreme variations of pose. Just do what works for you today. This time I'm going to roll onto the right bum cheek. We're going to meet in a seated position. So those of you that have been lying on the mat in recline pigeon, just coming back to seated briefly. So you've got two options now for the end of class. You're going to practice legs up against the wall, which is a nice restorative inversion pose. If you've got some more space, some radiator space, hopefully the radiator's off, it's getting a little bit warm for me. Or maybe even taking the legs against your sofa. That should all work. If you don't want to do that, then instead you're just going to come to wide angle forward fold, taking the legs nice and wide. Remember, you can sit on a block 2, taking the arms overhead, and then just coming into a very shallow variation of the pose. We're going to be here for a couple of minutes, so I don't want you to be forcing yourself all the way down. Just gently into the pose so you feel a light stretch, and just let gravity help you sink into it further if that works for you. For those of you coming into legs up against the wall, I want you to come really close up to your radiator wall equivalent. So my leg is touching the radiator here. This is really important because as you twist to take the legs up the wall, this will help you be as close as you can to the wall. If I'm sat over here when I twist to face it, and my legs are going to be at sort of like this angle. So I'm getting really close and snug. Then I'm going to draw the legs up towards the radiator. I'm actually going to draw myself a little bit closer by just hooking the heels. You can also wiggle yourself in a little bit, just coming as deep as feels good for you. And then we're going to try a wide variation today, but equally with if you're sitting on the floor doing a seated wide angle forward fold and you don't really fancy that and you want to keep the legs together, that's absolutely fine. So just come into a variation that works for you. We're going to try and relax ourselves down a little bit now. So if you're in your legs up against the wall, I'm just going to take the hands to rest on the belly. On the inhale, feeling the chest lift with the breath. And as you exhale, just feeling the belly sink back down again. Keeping the shoulders broad, the muscles in the face nice and relaxed. Just thanking yourself for taking the time out today. Giving some time back to you and your body, your well-being. In your wide angle forward fold, just letting the arms melt down. Maybe even take a large pillow or a beanbag or something to support the head. Letting everything be relaxed. I'm going to stay here for another minute or so. If the feet start to feel a little numb with legs up against the wall, you can always draw the soles of the feet together and take the knees wide. There's another variation. Or just come to lie on your mats. If it's feeling a little bit much, then that's fine as well. If you can, just try to stay here just for a little bit longer. And if you do have the time to stay here for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, just pausing the class in a moment, maybe putting on a nice relaxing song and just spending a few more minutes here. It's a lovely pose to come to after a stressful day at work or just as a little bit of a time out. And when you're ready, and slowly come out of the pose. So if your legs up against the wall, we're going to take the soles of the feet together and the knees nice and wide. If you're in a seated forward fold, you're going to do the same thing, but this will be bound angle for you. And then we're going to come to lie on our mats. Come into a full body stretch. I'm going to take a formal Shavasana today, unless you wish to do so in your own time. I'm going to take the arms up overhead, interlace the fingers, nice deep inhale. Roll long through the body. And then exhaling, letting go, taking the hands down either side. Just letting go. Rolling over briefly onto one side, taking a moment to rest there. And then when you're ready, finding your way back to seated. Drawing the legs underneath you. Just gently rocking left and right in the hips. Going tall through the spine, rolling the shoulders up, back and down. On the inhale, drawing the hands to prayer, lifting the chest. And then exhaling, bowing the head. Namaste.